In the wake of JJK's manga's crash and burn, one manga is left standing to try and bear the weight of the entire world's wants. And while some of you might be thinking, oh, it's Dandadan or Kagurabachi or some of these other up-and-coming manga, no. See, because right next to Boruto and JJK, revolving in a trio of who holds on to gold 1 week at a time has been, for the last couple of months, Chainsaw Man. And for good reason. As Chainsaw Man's second part builds towards its climax, it's the second best the manga's ever been, with a fair amount of capacity to be the best it's ever been. It's just the arc isn't over yet, so I can't compare it to the ending of part 1. And chapter 179 is a living testament to that fact, because living in stark contrast to the ending of JJK, we are getting absolute banger chapter after banger chapter from Tatsuki Fujimoto. And chapter 179 might be his best yet in part 2. See, because last week we were left with an incredible cliffhanger. The aging devil come out of hell onto Earth, trying to be consumed by the Chainsaw Man, knowing that every single bite the chainsaw takes out of the aging devil will result in children's deaths all across Japan. And thus we all sat in anticipation, wondering if we were about to see hundreds, if not thousands of children die in chapter 179. But the story has taken a significant shift. And not because I think Tatsuki Fujimoto is afraid of killing children. He's done that a lot already, but rather because it needs to be displayed to us just how strong the War Devil and the Chainsaw Devil have gotten over the last couple of months. And also maybe to display to us that even while Denji is being controlled by the black no-eyed Chainsaw Man, it's still Denji in there, which could possibly mean separating Chainsaw Man from Denji is actually impossible, even though it's the plan of Yoru and Fami. So while to the average reader, this chapter might have seemed just like another way to punt to the next chapter and set up an even bigger fight than the one that we were already reading, I believe this chapter has set the tone for what will be the climax of part 2 of this story, an ending that somewhat surprisingly will give us the lowest amount of child's mortality that we would have expected from Tatsuki Fujimoto. So with no further ado, guys, let's get directly into chapter 179 of Chainsaw Man's review. But before we get to reviewing anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you want to see me try to bring real-life challenges to the anime world, go ahead and follow the brand new channel that I created with Stephen Heat, Chris Barnett, and Danny Mata called Anime IRL. Or if you want to hear me talk about anime and manga, go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime and manga this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So, chapter 179, the chapter that featured Denji slowly but surely eating the aging devil as we watch children from all across Japan drop dead. Right? No, that didn't happen. And while that shouldn't be surprising, it should be at least a little bit surprising considering who's writing the story. However, the fact that it didn't happen might have hinted at exactly how this story is going to end. And that way is not in a way that Yoru, the War Devil, will appreciate. But before we get to talking on theories or possible endings of the story, let's break down what happened in chapter 179. Chapter 179 picks up exactly where chapter 178 left off, with the aging devil standing creepily above the Chainsaw Man, who's also existing creepily. Neither of them are good to look at. But in the first panel, we see that one of the Chainsaw Man's fingers are ripping his ripcord. And in the second panel, we see that the Chainsaw Man has regained its arms, but not its lower half. Now, this is an improvement when you consider the fact that last chapter ended with the Chainsaw Man just existing as a torso and a head, but this means that the aging devil didn't give the Chainsaw Man enough blood for him to fully regenerate. And more likely than not, that was intentional. See, while this might be the first time we've ever seen the aging devil interact with the Chainsaw Devil, that doesn't mean that the aging devil doesn't know what the Chainsaw Devil is. The aging devil is one of the 4 primal devils we know of, and therefore, ironically, because of its name, probably one of the oldest devils in existence. And as one of the oldest devils in existence, it's highly likely that the aging devil knows a fair amount about the Chainsaw Devil. After all, the Chainsaw Devil was involved in combat against the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, one of which is one of the other 4 primal devils, the Death Devil. And therefore, the reason that the aging devil didn't give Chainsaw Man enough blood is so the Chainsaw Man would need to eat the aging devil to be able to regenerate. Though obviously it's much more difficult to feed yourself to something that isn't able to move. So the aging devil gave the Chainsaw Man enough blood to allow him to claw over to his feet, start with his feet and slowly work his way up its body until eventually the Chainsaw Man ate the aging devil's head, maximizing the amount of children that would be killed in Japan because every bite the Chainsaw Man took of the aging devil would kill children across Japan. That was the deal that the aging devil made with the Japanese government. And initially it looks like things are going well for the aging devil as the Chainsaw Man begins begins to crawl over to the aging devil's feet. However, we see slowly but surely the aging devil's facial expression begins to change as it realizes something. And that thing is that the Chainsaw Man wasn't climbing towards the aging devil's feet, but actually behind them. As the Chainsaw Man has decided, now that it has its arms back, it can finally use its arms to once again chant for blood. Yes, that's right, the give blood heart sign was behind the aging devil. And so the Chainsaw Man crawled around the aging devil, grabbed the sign, and once again continued with the chant, Vam Vaga. Vaga Va. Now, while this might just seem like a comedic bit or a way to get out of killing thousands of children in this manga, I believe this is actually a very vital plot point. See, the Chainsaw Man, who up until this point has appeared to be driven by nothing outside of instincts, actively went against what would be identified as its instincts and didn't consume the aging devil. See, while the Chainsaw Man has never done anything overtly evil, except for like really make Kobeni's 9 to 5 more stressful than it already was. Everything that we'd heard about the Chainsaw Man is that it was an entity driven by malice, hatred, and the lust for blood. However, when we look back at all the appearances of the Chainsaw Man, really the only people that the Chainsaw Man ever hurts are those who are trying to hurt it. Whether that was Makima and all of her controlled devil hunters and devils, the new special divisions that attacked the sushi restaurant that Denji was in, or the aging devil and Asa and Yoru and Katana Man, who all attacked the Chainsaw Man, and the Chainsaw Man cut off their fingers or arms. And thus, because the aging devil had already established itself as an enemy to the Chainsaw Man, it would stand to reason, if the Chainsaw Man was an instinctual beast with no ability to form higher thought, that it wouldn't hesitate at the idea of consuming the aging devil and regenerating. And yet, it crawled around it. And ironically, the aging devil interprets the Chainsaw Man crawling around it completely wrong. Because the aging devil turns around, grabs the Chainsaw Man's head, and says, "Is your head completely empty?" Now, ironically, if the Chainsaw Devil's head was in actuality completely empty, it probably would have consumed the aging devil. But because either the Chainsaw Devil is an inherently evil devil, or because Denji is still controlling the ship, the Chainsaw Man made an elective choice to not consume the aging devil, implying quite the opposite of the Chainsaw Man's head being empty. That in actuality, while Denji is not the most intelligent person that's ever been the main character of a manga, that Denji is still in there, making the conscious and moral choice not to rejuvenate himself at the cost of children's lives. Now, before the aging devil is able to continue its torture of Chainsaw Man any longer, Yoru, the war devil, walks through the giant hole she just shot through the middle of a highly populated area, and without worrying about the thousands of bodies she's probably on top of, she instead gets angry because she realizes that the aging devil is trying to steal her glory. That is to say that Yoru believes that the aging devil is trying to kill the Chainsaw Man, even though it is quite literally exactly the opposite case. But still, Yoru, who wants to own and control and possibly turn the Chainsaw Man into a weapon. The second time a woman's wanted to do that to Denji, the third time if you count Asa, sees that the aging devil has its hand on Chainsaw Man and believes that the aging devil is trying to take control of, or just straight up kill the Chainsaw Man. Now, obviously, this entire situation really stresses Asa out, and she begins to plead with Yoru, saying, "Look, Chainsaw Man's on his last legs. Isn't blowing a hollow purple-sized hole through a highly residential area that eviscerated Chainsaw Man to the point that he was only a torso and a head enough to say you beat him?" And like, yeah, objectively, Yoru did win. Asa begins to plead with Yoru, saying, "Let's stop, please." But Yoru, in response, says, "Silence, let me concentrate." No, he's not mine yet. And I believe what's going on here, we're seeing subliminally that Yoru is being affected by Asa. And actually, a big takeaway from this entire chapter is that the both of them are really beginning to affect each other in ways they never anticipated. See, while obviously in chapter 168, the infamous chapter, it was established that Asa's feelings for Denji are slowly but surely creeping into Yoru's feelings for Denji, as Yoru now has romantic feelings towards Denji. But it seems as though Asa and Yoru's feelings have begun to intermingle about more things than just Denji. See, because the War Devil, or Yoru's initial deal with Asa, is that she simply wanted to defeat the Chainsaw Man, to enact revenge on the Chainsaw Man for taking a bite out of the War Devil in the battle between the Chainsaw Man and the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, which made the War Devil so weak that it had to partner up with Asa. But it no longer appears as though the War Devil really cares about simply defeating the Chainsaw Man. Now Yoru wants to control the Chainsaw Man, and I do genuinely believe this is Asa's emotions creeping into Yoru's, as Yoru, who has romantic feelings towards Denji, and therefore by extension probably the Chainsaw Man, wants to, in a sense, have Denji and the Chainsaw Man as theirs. And this has kind of been the through line for the entirety of part 2, as Asa's been trying to date Denji so that she could claim him as her own, and thus we now see that Yoru is somehow assimilated with that goal. But Asa pleads with Yoru, saying, but at this rate, Yoru cuts her off by saying, I'm going to claim Chainsaw Man as my weapon. And if I claim Chainsaw Man as my weapon, Denji will return back to being a normal human. And both of our wishes will be granted, just like Fami said. And this kind of has been exactly what they've been trying to accomplish for the entirety of part 2. Fami wants to separate Pochita from Denji and give Denji an actual human heart, which makes Denji a human so that Asa can simply enjoy him as a human and eradicates Chainsaw Man for Yoru. However, this isn't exactly what Fami wants. Fami wants the Chainsaw Man and the War Devil to be as strong as possible so that they can battle against the Death Devil. In short, while if hypothetically the War Devil was able to turn the Chainsaw Man into a weapon, the War Devil may be strong enough to take on the Death Devil. I do still believe that future that Fami wants is the future we're going to get. Asa then asks Yoru if she genuinely believes that it's going to work out like that, to which Yoru responds by saying, I do. And as Yoru is about to fire another bang that would inevitably wipe out Chainsaw Man forever, Asa cedes control of their body. Now, obviously this happens because Denji can't be separated from Chainsaw Man, because then the manga is no longer the Chainsaw Man. I believe that narratively in universe, the reason that Asa recedes control in this moment is based off what we saw earlier from Chainsaw Man. The Chainsaw Man who actively avoided eating the aging devil to rejuvenate its body. See, because Asa's doubt in this moment where she asks Yoru if she genuinely believes that she's gonna be able to separate Chainsaw Man from Denji is the third time in this chapter we've hinted at the fact that Denji and Chainsaw Man might be irreparably mixed. This is supposed to be the hit you over the head with the obvious indication that Denji and Chainsaw Man cannot be separated. And therefore Asa has made sure that Yoru does not do something that cannot be undone. Wipe out Denji, a person that they both might love. Now Yoru is immediately aggravated that Asa stole their body, telling Yoru to stop fearing her and to give back my body. But Yoru calms down and says, fine, I'll back off for now, becoming sad and looking sluggish. And it's this point that Yoru appears to adopt some of the mannerisms of Asa, saying, you're afraid of me, Asa? That hurts. And this has a very clear and immediate effect on Asa, because in essence, Asa is arguing with herself. Yoru's picked up enough of Asa's mannerisms that she's able to use her own mannerisms against her to manipulate Asa into doing what she wants. And that is exactly what Asa does. Asa, in a ploy to make somebody she believed is a friend feel comfortable, recedes control of their body over to Yoru, trusting that not only Yoru won't do anything that Asa isn't comfortable with, but also trusting that Yoru is the best person to take control of their body in this situation. And this is kind of why I love Asta as a character. She's one of my favorite new gen characters. And this is actually a point that I heard from somebody in a recent anime IRL video that we filmed that isn't out yet, when we were asking a group of people who were trying to figure out if they were fake weebs or not, who their favorite female character in anime was. And one of the women we asked the question to said that their favorite female character was Asa. And she brought up a really compelling point that I hadn't thought about until the moment that she brought it up. See, because every single man that was posed this question brought up some incredibly powerful woman. Mereoleona as Death. Characters along that line. But this woman said that she loves Asa because she loves female failures in manga. That the quality of a woman's writing in a manga doesn't always have to be necessarily dictated by strength, as that's often a metric that men use to measure the value of a character in a story. And therefore, the reason that Asa is such a compelling character is because she's not strong. She's not mentally strong. She's not physically strong. She blunders in social situations. She doesn't have friends. I mean, this is a woman who in the last chapter of this manga watched Yoru decimate an entire residential area with one shot and then laugh about it. Yoru in the last chapter went through what Yuji went through when he realized that Mahito and Sukuna were evil. Asa made a mental note to herself that Yoru is a devil. And yet just because Asa is so incredibly starved for any form of affection, when Yoru went, I guess you really hate me, eh? Asa folded like origami, fired off a bang with her monumental fingers in a highly residential area. Though I will say the panel of Yoru with a giant smile on her face screaming bang is undoubtedly the most underrated panel in the entirety of Chainsaw Man. I love it. I don't know why, but I love it. And thus, once again, all the way from Ellis Island, we see a rifle fire a gigantic fingertip. And in a matter of seconds, it hurls itself all the way from Ellis Island to Tokyo, screaming in a direct line for the aging devil. However, right before it hits the aging devil, it stops midair. And as the aging devil continues to stand in the exact spot that it's always been standing, it sighs and says, ugh, Now what? The Aging Devil then looks up at Yoru and says, War Devil, I see this attack was aimed at me. I can't believe she thinks she could kill me with just this. Now, mind you, this attack was enough to render Chainsaw Man into a Meruem post-Rose explosion meat cube and turn multiple city blocks, if not an entire city, into rubble in a matter of seconds. And yet the Aging Devil, without moving a singular inch, was able to stop this fingertip mid-air. And not only that, after expressing verbal disappointment in the War Devil for trying to attack it, it reaches up its hand and lays it on the gigantic fingertip. And we see as its hand comes into contact with the gigantic fingertip, which I've now realized are the Statue of Liberty's fingertips that are being fired, which means that Yoru's probably only got 10 shots. The giant copper finger begins to crack and crumble. And yes, the Statue of Liberty is made of copper. When it was given to us in 1886 by the French, it was a copper hue. But because of oxidation and the fact that Ellis Island is a tiny island in the middle of one of the busiest ports on Earth, the copper has turned green, which is why the Statue of Liberty is now green. It's at this point that the Aging Devil begins to monologue to us, saying that neither the Chainsaw Man Devil or the War Devil are mature enough to talk to me. And it's at this moment that we see that the entirety of the fingertip that the Aging Devil laid its hand on has disintegrated into dust. And the chapter ends with the Aging Devil telling us it's time to have them grow up. Which means that the battle is no longer between the Chainsaw Man and the War Devil, but rather the Chainsaw Man, the War Devil, and the Aging Devil. But how is this going to work? See, inherently, even not considering the fact that the Aging Devil is a primal devil and therefore one of the 4 strongest devils in existence, Yoru and Denji are at a massive disadvantage here. See, because it appears as though the Aging Devil is able to freely transport itself between Hell and Earth. While previously to this chapter, it only appeared as though the Aging Devil was able to insert parts of itself on Earth through the medium of a fist punched through a window, this chapter has shown us and pretty much solidified the fact that primal devils are able to transport themselves between Hell and Earth pretty much at will, as the Falling Devil was also able to just pull up on Earth whenever it seemed fit. Now we know that there is doors that connect Hell to Earth's dimension, and the primal devils, as the strongest devils in existence, devils so strong that they've never been killed, would probably know about these doors because they would need to get to Earth somehow outside of death. This means if hypothetically the War Devil and the Chainsaw Devil are able to defeat the Aging Devil in combat, the Aging Devil, if killed, would just reincarnate in Hell. And as the Aging Devil has the ability to freely travel between Hell and Earth, the Aging Devil could be back in a matter of minutes, hours, weeks, months, we don't know. We don't know how long it takes to reincarnate, but Naota showed up pretty soon after Makima's death. And thus really the only way to get out of fighting the Aging Devil time and time again is for the Chainsaw Man to consume the Aging Devil. But that can't happen now on account of the contract that the Japanese government made with the Aging Devil. And thus one could argue the only way the Aging Devil is going to be defeated is through Yoru defeating it. And we'll just have to worry about the Aging Devil reincarnating at a different time. However, it doesn't appear as though Yoru has the ability to defeat this devil on her own. I mean, the Aging Devil just effortlessly deleted a light speed attack that devastated an entire city on its way to the Chainsaw Man, an entity that, mind you, was able to take on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, one of which was the Death Devil, undoubtedly the strongest primal devil of all, simultaneously. And thus defeating the Aging Devil is probably going to require a team up between the Chainsaw Man and Yoru. But the team up isn't going to happen immediately. See, Yoru really has 2 paths to take here. At least Yoru has 2 paths that she would take. She would either try to battle against the Aging Devil with the power that she currently has, or she would try to turn the gravely injured Chainsaw Man into a weapon to battle against the Aging Devil. Now, I don't think the latter is going to happen because Denji's the main character of the story, and I don't think he should be separated from Pochita, which means more likely than not, Yoru's going to try to battle against the Aging Devil in the next chapter in 2 weeks. And while I do genuinely believe the Tank Gauntlet will finally come into play in this battle against the Aging Devil, a primal devil, I don't believe Yoru's powers will be enough to overcome. And thus either because Denji inside of Chainsaw Man wants to help Yoru and Asa, or because Asa convinces Yoru that they need the Chainsaw Man's help in some way or another, Yoru/Asa are gonna give the Chainsaw Man some of their blood, which would be a direct callback to the battle against the Falling Devil, where Yoru gives Denji some of her blood to bring him back to life and ensure that they're able to battle back against this primal devil. However, because Asa has slowly but surely realized that Yoru is a devil, and that Yoru seems to have no real regard for Denji's life, and therefore puts him at risk every single time she tries to turn the Chainsaw Man into a weapon, I believe that after the defeat of the Aging Devil, Asa will no longer let Yoru take over her body. Or over the course of the fight against the Aging Devil, Yoru and Asa's feelings become so irreparably mixed that Yoru gives up on her idea of turning the Chainsaw Man into a weapon, as maybe it's revealed that Denji and Pochita, much like Asa and Yoro have become irreparably mixed, and Asa's feelings that have mixed with Yoro's feelings won't allow for Yoro to destroy Denji, which to me sets the stage perfectly for Asa and Denji battling against the final primal devil in the Death Devil in Chainsaw Man's third and final part. You see, because here's the thing, the addition of another primal devil that Asa and Denji have to battle against now here close to the end of part 2 of Chainsaw Man seems to imply to me narratively that introducing another primal devil in the form of the Death Devil anytime soon would seem redundant and kind of choppy. And thus I believe part 1 of Chainsaw Man was meant to build up Denji as a character and allow us to understand his motivations. Part 2 of Chainsaw Man is meant to introduce Asa as a character, build her up, get us to understand her motivations. And part 3 of Chainsaw Man is meant to show the both of them working together with their individual motivations, striving to defeat the biggest, baddest devil in existence, the Death Devil. But then again, what do I know? Maybe I just want more Chainsaw Man, and I'll tell you right now, I want more Chainsaw Man. What do you guys think this chapter means for the future of Chainsaw Man? Tell me in the comments below, and while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I'm gonna go get caught up with Dandadan and One Piece so that we can do Dandadan and One Piece updates. And Kagurabachi. I haven't read Kagurabachi in like 10 weeks.